When it comes to making something look cinematic, all that really means is giving it characteristics from cinema. And while there's a lot of major characteristics and elements of cinema, a big one is the element of depth. There's a ton of different ways you can actually achieve depth in your image, so let's get into it. Now, regardless of the space that you're in, it's safe to say that the longest part of any room is the diagonal distance between one corner and another. And so the first step to achieve the maximum amount of depth is to shoot into the corner of that room. This will give you the maximum amount of separation between your subject and the walls that are behind them. Now, you will need to move your subject as far away from the wall as possible, but fair warning, this is going to kind of push your camera setup further back into the adjacent corresponding corner. I don't even know how to say that, but the point is the other corner. Next, we'll need to create some visual interest within the background by adding lamps, also known as practicals, and just other background elements that will just make it more interesting. Not only will this give your background more visual interest, improve your composition through leading lines, but it's also going to give you a motivation for a backlight. You see, if you use a backlight without a lamp or something to motivate that backlight, then it's going to feel super unnatural. But once you add something in there, like a lamp or shoot with a window behind you, you'll actually see that that backlight suddenly feels more natural. Kind of like this backlight that's happening right here. And that's what we're going for, natural lighting. Now, when it comes to just the other elements in the background, this is really dependent on the location that you're in and just what you have at your disposal. In my opinion, anything is better than just a blank white wall. Up until this point, it's safe to say that these principles can really be applied on the majority of the shoots you're going to be on. But when it comes to this last tip, I think it's kind of a your use case may vary scenario because it's really not going to work for every single project. A clever way to add depth is actually by adding a foreground element. And this creates a separation between your foreground, your midground, and your background, which just gives you a more 3D image. And at the end of the day, can even create like a frame within a frame. But as I said before, you need to be careful when you're adding foreground elements because it can get a little distracting and sometimes it just doesn't fit the shoot that you're on. But you don't even have to take my word for it. You can actually just look at movies and see these same three elements being used over and over again in movie after movie. Like in these frames from the Joker, where we can see consistency in shooting into the corner of the room, we can see foreground elements and a ton of visual interest. Or in these frames from No Country for Old Men, where again, we're shooting into the corner of the room, there is a lot of visual interest behind the subject. And in the foreground, we see a person because we're kind of in an over-the-shoulder shot, and that gives context to who our main character is talking to. And for just one more example, you can even look at The Social Network, where all of these three elements are super present throughout the entire movie. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. At the end of the day, these three techniques aren't really like a one-stop shop to create depth in any video, but they do give you kind of a starting point that you can work with and learn from. So I would encourage you to get out there, start shooting, and kind of use these techniques to start trying to get depth in your image and kind of learn like where you can be creative and where you can modify these techniques that best fit your scenario. Thank you for watching, and until next time, let's get out there and make better films.